All right, everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Untap podcast. I'm Jonny Esports. I'm joined, as always, the two-time, as always, with JT. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing great, Johnny. It's great to be back, and it's great to have a name
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
podcast. That
Yeah,
is.
exactly. As we alluded to last time, we didn't actually decide on a name until after we finished, and then we had all the graphics there. So thanks to everyone's support. Thanks for all the feedback and stuff off our first episode. We're obviously looking to improve on that and keep going forward, so I look forward to that. But after all that said, let's talk about some Magic stuff. We have 3 categories today we're going to talk about. So, as we started last week, we're going to start again with a game. This time, JT's going to challenge me. We're going to play some Who's That Planeswalker. And then we'll talk about what decks we're playing in Historic. And I believe we want to talk about Historic Brawl a little bit too. And spoiler alert, our boy JT made Mythic just recently, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then more Kaldheim previews. More stuff came out. I will say we are recording this on the Wednesday, and this is going to come out on the Sunday. So there's probably going to be more stuff that came out between now and then that might reflect how we're thinking about what we're thinking about brewing with some new Kaldheim stuff. I'll put it on the screen if it does, but if we don't talk about stuff that's spoiled between now and the future, well, that's why. We're a little bit in the past right now.
Well, and we're not being exhaustive either. I mean, for me, it's a couple of cards that have jumped out and went, "Ooh, that looks cool."
Yeah.
So,
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
That's what this is all about. But let's go to our first
All right, here we
topic of
go.
the day. Who's that Planeswalker? So
Dun,
how
dun,
do you
dun,
explain the
dun,
rules to
dun.
me because you made this game.
I need like a game show song.
Yeah, we
Dun,
didn't
dun,
use it.
dun,
That's
dun,
what
dun.
we're saying.
Okay, so we've got Who's That Planeswalker? So what I'm going to do, just like you did with the Two Truths and a Color Pie last week,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to slightly color shift a card.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm taking a Planeswalker. I'm going to color shift one of the color symbols
Oh, it's
on
color.
that Planeswalker.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm going to make sure that there's always at least one color symbol that I haven't changed, so you've got at least something.
So I got a fighting chance.
Exactly. And then the clues are going to be the loyalty abilities. And I'll also tell you at the beginning what its starting loyalty is.
All right.
And I'll go down the line. If you get it on the first loyalty ability, 5 points. Second one, 3. If there's a third one, on the third one, 2. If you still don't get it, for 1 point, I will give you the set. So that's
okay.
that's
All
the
right.
little extra twist in case you're struggling. So here we go.
Okay. And of course, if you want to play along at home, leave a comment in the comment section below what your guess was. If you got more points than me, let me know. I'm not going to be good at this, guaranteed, so you have a good chance of beating me. All right, let's go.
The more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh, this could be really mean. But let's see what happens.
All right.
All right. Our Planeswalker is 3, a black, and a white for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. And its first ability, +1, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life.
Each opponent. Okay. Okay, so I have a feeling it's actually a Temur because you color shifted white, maybe. And it's maybe an Ashiok, but I don't know which one right now. I'm gonna go with
Okay, we'll go to the next one.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Keep going.
-3, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if it has converted mana cost 3 or less.
All right. So now I'm starting to think this thing's Rakdos. Oh, man. I'm losing it. I don't know. I still don't know. I'm gonna need the third.
Okay, there is a third loyalty ability. For -8, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in their graveyard.
Okay. All right. I have no clue. I'm still kind of sitting on this being a Rakdos Planeswalker now at this point.
Okay, I'm going to give the last, but I will tell you this: you're smelling in the right direction color-wise.
Okay. All right. Sweet.
So for the 1 point, I will throw in the set is Rivals of Ixalan.
Angrath?
You got it.
There you go. I can't remember his full name.
Angrath the Flame Chained.
There we go. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. That was fun. I actually should have got that one. That was a fun. That was 5.
really
I thought it was more expensive than that.
Yeah, it was just 5, but I really thought that middle ability was going to be the giveaway because it's if you were going to get it on the abilities, because that was the one that you just -3, steal something and sacrifice it.
All right.
I played against that thing in pre-releases and it was a beating.
Yo, yeah. In limited, that thing was absolutely nuts for sure. Okay, that's the game for the week. Next week, I will challenge you again. Probably, I actually really liked 2 truths, 1 color pie, so I'll probably give you another one of those next week.
Sounds good.
And we'll bounce back and see. Maybe one day one of us will get something correct. Maybe.
That seems like wishful thinking.
Yeah. At least mine's multiple choice, so you can kind of like RNG into guessing it. But anyway. All right. So, decks we're currently playing right now. You got yourself into Mythic, playing some decks on Historic. Probably still playing Butts, I'd imagine. What are you playing?
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm not bringing out anything new for this. I did plow into Mythic early this morning, using the big butts. Even in Diamond, the big butts are still rocking a 65% win percentage.
It's wild.
It is, and part of it is because people just don't know what to expect from it, so they leave themselves wide open to a tower defense. So, like I talked about it in the previous episode, but if you get a chance, check out the butts decks using Assault Formation and Watley and High Alert and 04s and 05s. It's a blast.
Yeah, I'll show some of the cards up the screen, but just check out last episode again. They went a little bit into it. You did, JT, so we don't need to do that again. But what else? What else?
Just wanted to toot my own horn.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You're Mythic. I never made it, to be completely honest. I was literally 1 win away, I think, 2 years ago, and I've just been too salty to ever get there again. I've been trying to get there again.
So this is not the first time I've made it to Mythic, but this is the first time I've played matches in Mythic. Okay. Because the first time I made Mythic was last April, and the only other time. Mm-hmm. I played until 3 a.m. the day before the season ended. I got in with Butts after trying to do Mono Red. I got in at 3 a.m, went, okay, that's it, I'm done, and did not play a single match in Mythic. I just got to Mythic. So now I'm actually playing in Mythic, and it's actually doing better. I've got a better win percentage in Mythic than I did in Diamond.
Yeah, because now they're really no one's expecting that at all in Mythic for sure.
No. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But so the other stuff I want to talk about. You were talking about Commander last week, and how much fun you've had, and you've kind of been discovering it through the pandemic. One thing I've really discovered through the pandemic and I've really enjoyed is Historic Brawl.
Yeah.
Now, I know when Brawl was created, the whole premise was that it was standard. Mm-hmm. But on Arena, they've made a Historic Brawl, which there isn't a queue very often. It's just a sporadic thing. Mm-hmm. I think Wizards is going to start realizing the popularity of it is growing, and hopefully we'll start to see more of that. Because when we have tournaments, we have weekly tournaments now at the Jankyard. Now, they had been Friday nights. They're now Thursday nights. We get a decent turnout, and we have different stipulations each week, whether it's 3-color or 5-color or mono color, or you have to play artisan. So I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of fun decks to be built. The one I want to talk about that I played, it's actually based on a Commander deck that I made the list for, but never bought all the cards for.
Right.
That is DePaula.
DePaula? What's DePaula do?
So DePaula is from Kaladesh, and she is DePaula Pilot Exemplar, who I've just made her disappear on my computer, so I can't even...
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember this card, but go on.
Yeah, DePaula, the Pilot Exemplar. She's a legendary creature, dwarf pilot. Other dwarves you control get +1/+1. Each vehicle you control gets +1/+1 as long as it's a creature. And then she also, when she becomes tapped, you can pay X, and if you do, you can reveal X cards. All dwarves and vehicles from among them into your hand. She's a 3 mana for 3 mana which is 1 colorless plus a red and white for a 3/3.
Mm-hmm.
So this deck is a Boros Vehicles and Dwarves.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There isn't that many great vehicles right now in Historic. They brought back quite a few from Kaladesh, but not all of them. So I'm actually really looking forward to the vehicles we're seeing in Kaldheim. There looks like there's some great vehicles.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to buff it up. But right now, it's a fun deck. Besides DePaula, we've got stuff like SRAM, Senior Edificer, Veteran Motorist, Sky Skiff, Aethersphere Harvester, and Sky Sovereign Council Flagship.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, other dwarves like Torbrand,
nice, yeah.
Rimrock Knight, and 7 copies of 7 dwarves because that's legal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I should probably delve more into Historic Brawl next time it's up. It's not something I ever did too much of. I just build Niv Mizzet and just go to town. That's usually my plan. I
love Niv Mizzet. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Niv Mizzet's a great time. Or just run like Grixis something, or rather some sort of Nicol Bolas. That's usually my jam to go with that. But maybe I should actually discover some of that because what's kind of interesting to when Brawl first came out to me, the 1v1 opportunity for Brawl was that aggro decks could really exist, and aggro decks do exist in Commander. It's just, as I touched on last week, just harder when there's 3 other opponents.
Yeah, exactly.
Times. So the 1v1 where you have aggro decks that are possible, that's really, really interesting, and there could be a really interesting meta in Historic Brawl. I should next time it's on Arena, or next time you have a tournament, I should enter, and that should be fun.
Yeah, sure. And I encourage folks to check out our tournaments. They're Thursday nights in the North American time zones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're a lot of fun. Or certainly, definitely, there are some commanders that are much more powerful than others. If you see a Kinnan deck, you might be in trouble. Kinnan is very powerful. But I have a lot of fun just playing different archetypes, and I love tribal. Yeah. And there's so many different tribals that you can build. It's a blast. So I just encourage people to check out Historic Brawl when you can. Yeah. It's to me, it's a really fun format. Although the opportunities aren't great at the moment, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, what's nice too is that I'm currently on a League of Legends team that plays on Thursday nights, but we're actually moving to Wednesdays, so my Thursdays have become open, and so hopefully I'll be able to come out to some more of those tournaments on Thursdays. So quickly on what I've been playing a little bit lately. So the last tournament I entered on your tournament was last Sunday. I said that a really weird sentence there, but anyway, last time I played in one of your tournaments was last Sunday, and I brought out Is It Phoenix, and then immediately got paired with a ton of really bad matchups, a lot of bad control matchups that could just stop me from doing anything I want to do. But what that kind of re-inspired me to do again, because I am just a little bit of Is It player, was I never really messed around with Is It Yorion, because I just haven't, and I've just been messing around with that lately, and it's been a lot of fun. So of course Yorion is the companion that requires you to have an 80 card deck. So often you'll see Jessica Yorion, you'll see blue, white, black Yorion, a bunch of different ones, but I'm just going straight Is It. What I'm basically pulling out is a lot of card draw. So you have the Ops, the Chart of Courses, the Frantic Inventories, the Mind Stones, basically just ways to make up for the fact that it's an 80 card deck. And then I'm playing one of my favorite cards of all time, Crackling Drake with Enigma Drake. Yes. And just a tons of flyers kind of getting in there with obviously this instant and sorcery value that I kind of have as I'm just pumping out Shocks and Abrades and Blitz of the Thunder Raptor to try to deal with. Oh,
that's a good card.
Yeah, to try to deal with stuff going in there. And again, a little bit of a anti-synergy in a way in Shark Typhoon. It's not an instant or sorcery, but Shark Typhoon is just an absurd card. So there's 4 in there because with that 80 card disadvantage, you kind of have to cycle through this deck to make sure you're kind of getting to those answers when you're trying to control stuff. And it's just been fun, and I've been enjoying that. Just the free card you get from Yorion, which is nice too because Yorion and Crackling Drake work super, super well together. So you play your Crackling Drake, you draw your card. Next turn you get in for your attack with your Crackling Drake. Maybe it's a 14-4 at that time. If they're not dead, you play Yorion, you bounce your own Crackling Drake, you draw another card. So that stuff always feels fun, and it's. And
as an Is It player, that is your favorite thing to do in the world, isn't it? Draw a card.
For sure, there are I have done way too many times where I have just decided to draw more cards instead of going in for lethal. Because I'm a terrible person. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, but like I can have this combo where I'm gonna draw like 4 cards this turn. That sounds cool. So definitely gets myself into a little bit of trouble because sometimes I would have had lethal. I draw more cards and then I don't. In fact, just before this, we were a little bit playing a game. I was playing a game just before we started where they had a couple creatures out and I had a Enigma Drake out, but I was 1 power short from being able to kill them. So I could have just played Yorion just to, really dominate and have another presence there to block her or to do whatever. But of course, I cracked my Mind Stone so I could draw another card so I could just have that chance that maybe I get another instant or sorcery and kill him this turn because that's what I want to try to do. But I get myself in trouble just trying to draw cards.
Well, and as far as Johnny's comment about he loves playing Crackling Drake and Enigma Drake, having played against played in paper against him many times, can confirm those are a couple of his favorite cards of all time.
I love it too because before Crackling Drake came out, I was still a fan of Enigma Drake, and I was always trying to make it a thing at store, whether I was playing some sort of tempo list or some sort of control list to try to make Enigma Drake work. And then when Crackling Drake came out, it also came out with Arclight Phoenix, and suddenly Izzet was actually this meta thing. That was a good time for me to be around.
And hence you brought the Arclight back for the Historic tournament.
Yeah, I had to give it a shot. It didn't do well, but I had to give it a shot.
Now, the one thing I'm wondering, because I've never played with Yorion, is the 80 card aspect of it. Is it working for you? Do you feel you're at a disadvantage, or with all the card draw you're making up for that?
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as I maybe initially assumed. Just in general, like Yorion, just the free card apparently is worth more than just like the instant consistency you get with needing 20 more cards in your deck. And what's kind of nice too is I sometimes can't decide on what card draw spells I want in my deck. So I'm just like, well, if I have to go to 80, I can suddenly put in these cards now in my deck that maybe Charter Course didn't make it before, but because I have to go to 80, now it gets to make it. Which is nice. And since I'm cycling through some of that, and the other part of it, like the sort of non-synergies, the Mind Stones and the Shark Typhoons, because they're not technically instants or sorceries, you a little bit going at 80 affords you to do that, I think, because I still have a ton of instants and sorceries in the deck. I'm running 36 in this deck still, even though I'm running 4 artifacts and 4 enchantments. Whereas I think if I was restricted to 60, I just wouldn't be able to run non-instants and sorceries because I want to be able to get my Crackling Drake or my Enigma Drake up to like a 16-4, right? And come in for an attack that hopefully I've done a little bit of chip damage before then. It's just like 1 attack for the win, right? That's usually the goal. So it definitely allows you to still... Going to 80 actually allows you to still do that. And the advantage of having basically an extra card with Yorion, it makes up for it, in my opinion.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on.
It's good.
For sure. Let's move on to our last little bit of talk today. So, Kaldheim spoiler season, Kaldheim previews are in full swing. And like we mentioned last time, I do want to do this, not like a complete exhaustive review of everything, of every card that's been spoiled, but kind of something that stands out from us from this week that we see that maybe gets our brewer brain going and makes us potentially want to build something. So, what has got you excited that you've seen recently, JT?
Well, we're going to start with the obvious for me. As I've already talked about multiple times, I love playing big butts, and there is a big butt here, and oh, he's pretty. I think his official title is Giant Ox. If you look up on Scryfall, they call him Big Booty Ox.
That's amazing.
He is 1 and a white for an 06 creature Ox. Now, the other extra fun with him is you may use his toughness to crew rather than its power.
Oh.
So the fun thing in Pioneer, because unfortunately this card is not card I'm about to mention is not in Historic, but in Pioneer you could play Consulate Dreadnought, which is a 1-mana 7/11 vehicle, but it's crew 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you could drop it on turn 1, drop the Big Booty Ox on turn 2. Whoop.
Yeah. actually get to accrue that thing. 'Cause I never see that going, yeah, this will never be playable. But you do something like that, where it's the toughness base to actually tap it, and you got something interesting going on.
So, and I'm excited because, I mean, in the historic deck, I run Nyx Fleece Ram, which is an 05 for 2 mana, 1 on white. It's nice because of the life gain. You don't get that from the Big Booty Ox.
Mm-hmm.
But I still just love the idea of a 2 mana 6/6 in my deck. Oh, chef's kiss.
That's beauty.
Okay, so I really am liking some of the sagas, and I think Johnny's going to talk about a couple, but one that got spoiled just today that I think is pretty awesome, and I believe it's called Furia's Judgment. It is 1, 2 white, and a black for an enchantment saga. If you've seen it, but you're not sure of the name, it is the Angel Saga.
Yeah.
So this one, Chapter 1, create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. Chapter 2, until end of turn, angels you control gain tap, destroy target creature with less power than this creature. That's insane. And Chapter 3, angels you control gain double strike until end of turn, which if you're playing like Lyra or any other of the host of the angels that are out there, yeah, it's a late game card for sure. Angels tend to be late game, but this looks super powerful. And I love sagas ever since we first saw them in Dominaria. And this to me looks, it's definitely a specialized saga. You're going to have to build around it, but it looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Nice. Now, what I've been kind of getting excited by is some of the giants that have been kind of announced, because the giants has been kind of a bad tribe, to be completely honest. And you always expect it to be like, literally just because they're giants, you'd expect them to have this big power and toughness, but they tend to just be like 4/4s, but way overcosted 4/4s, which in the world where your 4/4 has to have trample, haste, kills planeswalkers by looking at them, makes fun of your mother, slaps your girlfriend, like it has to do all 5 of those things to actually be a playable 4/4 now.
Sorry, I didn't know we had misogyny giants.
But now they're actually releasing some good giants, and again, we're recording this on the Wednesday, so there's a chance that even more got spoiled between now and by the time this comes out. But I'm excited to see what they kind of go in there, because I want to brew some Temur giants because first of all, Uro is a giant, which I just realized like yesterday. Like, oh yeah, Uro's giant. This is gonna go in there. We're just like green, red, blue giants because of the green for the ramp, and then a bunch of blue, red giant stuff that's going on. You have Agar, the Freezing Flame, legendary creature, giant wizard. It's a 3/3 for 3. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage, if a giant, wizard, or spell you control dealt damage to it this turn, my favorite word, draw a card. So there's your card advantage engine giant. There's Calamity Bearer. He's a 4-drop, 2 and 2 red, 3/4. If a giant source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Well, you have Quakebringer. He's a 5-drop, 3 colors, 2 red, 5/4. Your opponents can't gain life, which is good right now in Historic. There's tons of life gain in it. At the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant. You can also foretell this for 4, as well as the new saga that got announced too as well. The Battle of Frost and Fire. Shout out to the Commander Cookout podcast. This was their official preview card, but it starts off with Battle of Frost and Fire deals 4 damage to each non-giant creature and each planeswalker. So there's your board wipe. And even though at 5 mana that seems kind of overcosted, again, we're playing Temur here to potentially ramp into this. So you're potentially still playing this on turn 3 or turn 4 to deal with those aggro decks. And again, it doesn't hit your own giants too. So if you're playing this in your giants deck, they're just going to be on there and just be fine. So it's going to be a one-sided board wipe potentially. Chapter 2, it scries for 3, which is about the worth of drawing a card and a half. So that's awesome. And then Chapter 3 is whenever you cast a spell with converted mana costs 5 or greater this turn, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. That one's actually like maybe the most meh part, as much as the drawing 2 cards, just because I don't know you're gonna do this once. Maybe in Commander you'll be up to like drop a bunch of things that are kind of crazy, and maybe you're drawing 4 cards to discard 2. But you might be able to do this. But really, the front half of this card, where again it's a potential one-sided board wipe, and then you just get this extra value after that. It's potentially pretty cool. So yeah, I'm excited to brew some Temur Giants.
I mean, it sounds really awesome, and in Standard I did a Naya Giants deck, mainly so we had the board wipe from Throne of Eldraine, which is 3 and 2 white, which wipes everything but giants. But now you've got in blue and red. You've got the saga you just mentioned, but there's also another creature, Cyclone Summoner, I think is Scryfall's guess at the name. But it's a creature wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, return all permanents to their owner's hands except for giants, wizards, and lands. So if you're able to ramp and get out this 7 mana guy, you can do a number on your opponent's board because it's all permanents.
Yeah. So I very much look forward to what's going on there with these giants, and I'm kind of holding out hope that there'll still be like a lord, or even just a really good commander. Like there's Aegard the Freezing Flame that I just mentioned there that draws a card earlier, and that's. I like drawing cards, obviously, like I said. That's exciting on its kind of its own right. You can probably make this dual giants and wizards dual tribal commander deck with that potentially. That could potentially be fun, but I almost want something that really potentially puts all this over the top with a commander. I'm still like holding on hope there's a rare or a mythic giant that we get spoiled at some point. But
legendary Temur Giant?
Yeah, legendary Temur Giant would be...
That's not asking too much.
That's not asking too much, right? It's not asking too much. All right, is there anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I think I think we'll still get a few more to digest. So probably next week we'll talk about the last of it as we head to the actual release of Call Time. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Although I'm noticing, we'll maybe talk about it next week. There's some really interesting snow stuff that we've never really seen before.
We haven't even touched any of the snow stuff.
No, so we'll maybe talk about that next week.
Yeah, for sure. I would like to. There's some snow stuff. I talked about elves last week. I just might throw some snow lands in my elves to play that one land that's basically poor man's Mutavault, and maybe we're rocking elves and historic with stuff like that. Again, who knows? We'll touch on that next week, but that's going to end the podcast for this week. JT, is there anything you want to shout out before we take off?
Just a reminder to check out our tournaments. Check us out on Twitter at JankyardM and Jankyard MTG on Facebook. We announce our tournaments there. You can also find all of our tournaments on mtgmelee.com. And we'll also, check out our stream. We're doing different decks, checking out, playing new and different decks every once in a while. So yeah, come check us out. And also, if you want to support what I'm doing over at the Jankyard, you can check us out at patreon.com/JankyardMTG.
Awesome. And the one thing I will shout out is, of course, my apparel line, Meta Break Apparel. Check it out in the links below. We got some shirts, we got some sweaters, we got some masks and stuff, because that's important at this time. So,
you've got a lot of selection, quite frankly. You got a lot of stuff. We got
some good stuff. And it's what I really like about some of it is that it's really warm. Like the sweaters and stuff are really, really warm and stuff, and it's been nice for the winter right now, and especially here in Winnipeg. Obviously, winter is an awful place but heck, it might keep you warm through these Kaldheim snowy nights too, as well.
Ooh, nice flavor.
I know.
Let's finish on a flavor win.
For sure. I've been Jonny Esports the whole time. Thanks again, JT, for joining me. We'll see you all next time, and have a great week.
See you later, folks.